Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we have actually a lot of events to talk about because over the weekend there was two B tier events in Toyota Grand Slam 14, which was won by Mia, and Kowloon 6, which was won by Hurt, as well as two B plus tier events, which is Sumabato SP 39, which was won by Yoshidora, and Wavedash 2023, which was won by MK Leo. So we're going to be going over all those events and what went down. So let's start with the smallest of the four events, which was Toyota Grand Slam. In 7th place, you had Keiru and Gaosan. 5th place, you had Karage and Sirikon. 4th place, you had Dio. 3rd place, you had Noi. 2nd place, Tsubaki. And 1st place, Mia. Now, Mia was by far the favorite to take this event, especially from a ranking standpoint. He's by far the highest ranked player at this event. I'd say the person that was in contention for 2nd place was going to be Jogabu, but he actually ended up falling before top 8 even started, getting upset by both Noi and Dio. So that's a nice overperformance there by Karage, finally beating Jogabu one of these events. It feels like they go back and forth, but Jogabu always slightly slips ahead this time. Karage is able to get that higher placement, but Mia winning this one really is no surprise. He's been having a dominant record as of late, especially since the start of his season, where he has recovered massively. He's been looking like a top 5 player in the world, and it's probably only going to get harder for everyone else. But by far the star of the tournament is going to be Tsubaki, who had one of the best losers runs I've seen in a very long time. He fell fairly early on to Sirikon and then just went off, getting wins on Ryuo, Karage, Dio, and Noi to get a 2nd place. He was also the only player in the entire tournament to even take a game off Mia. Their set was 3-1 in Grand Final. Hey, quick editor's note here. It was actually a mistake on start.gg that Tsubaki actually took a game. Mia won this entire tournament without dropping a game, which is, again, insane. Everywhere else, Mia 3-0'd or 2-0 people. Again, he was very, very dominant this tournament, but amazing run from Tsubaki. It's been a little bit since he's popped off. Japan 24 was kind of his highlight tournament, and after that, he fell a little bit under the radar, but now has a really nice performance here, which I'm super happy with. This tournament in general just highlighted some people that I think are amazing at the game. You had breakout runs from Sirikon, from Keiru, from Gaosan. They haven't hit these peaks before. I'm really interested to see if they'll be able to do it again. Noi as well is always a player that I've loved watching. I got a little bit of a PT bias. Same thing with Dio with that snake bias, but this overall was a super enjoyable top 8. Again, if you like good Joker gameplay, and there's not a lot out right there right now, I would highly recommend watching Tsubaki's losers run because it really is just incredible how he gets to this bracket. Next up, you have Kowloon 6. In 7th place, you have Noko Bros and Money Right. 5th place, Senra and Passeriman. 4th place, Roki. 3rd place, Kome. 2nd place, Yara. And winning the entire event was Hurt, who beat Atorie, Kome, and Yara twice. Hurt looked incredible here, and I just gotta say, the Snake player base is by far the best player base out of any character in this game. The amount of amazing Snake players that there are around the world that are getting continuously better is insane. You have MVD, you have Apollo Kage for the US, as well as a bunch of other ones. Kronos is another one. In Japan, you have Dio, Ike, and Hurt all doing really well. There's just so many amazing Snake players that are making waves, and it seems like they're all continuously getting better at a really rapid rate, so I'm very curious to see how Hurt is going to perform at future events. I love watching his Snake. I mean, I love watching Snake in general, so it's not that hard to impress me, but I think overall he's an amazing talent. Really happy that he was able to get his first big win, and I'm curious to see how he performs in the future. Now, even though Hurt's run was pretty insane, we gotta talk about the Isabel player. Yes, you heard me right. The Isabel player that ended up getting 4th place at this event. That is going to be, of course, Roki, who just went off. They had a very nice loser run as well, beating Gintama, Tronen, and Karubi to be able to get into top 8. Once they were in the top 8, they beat Money Right and Senra, and then they lost to Kome. But getting 4th place at a tournament like this with Isabel is insane. This is probably the best Isabel placement I've ever seen, at least in a very long time. Like, maybe early meta ultimate they were able to get a couple wins, but this is a ridiculous run. Should be super happy with it. Noko Bros as well, making a run in Japan with Pikachu. And Japan, that's the last place I'd expect Pikachu to do well, because it feels like they don't think very highly of that character, but maybe they will now after this run from Noko Bros, because he played out of his mind. He beat Agoski and Matsunabe to be able to get into the top 8. You also have H4 winning a tournament over there recently, so Pikachu is getting its best results in Japan, which is pretty ironic, because if you look towards the start of the game, there is literally no Pikachu representation. I mean, it's pretty much all East throughout the history of Vault, but more recently, you have Shining Mark popping up. Now in Japan, you have a couple Pikachu players doing really well, so maybe this character is finally going to come back into the meta, because Pikachu is still ridiculously good, just not played a lot. On to our next event of Sumabato SP 39. In 7th place, you had Suda and Kananabe. 5th place, you had Snow and Jogabu. 4th place, you had Parenbox. Third place, you had Osimo. Second place, you had Mia, and winning the entire event was Yoshidora. Now, your top three for this event, it is fairly typical. Osimo's your third seed. He ends up getting third. Second place is Mia, and first place is Yoshidora. Now, Yoshidora was the second seed, but he's a top 10 player or top 10 caliber player in the world. Mia is a top 10, top 5 caliber player in the world. These players are going to be trading sets from time to time, but huge tournament for Yoshidora. You know, he gets 2 Mia wins and an Osimo win, as well as beating a couple other players, so that's really nice for him. But the star of the tournament is by far our 4th place finisher of Parent Box, who gets double eliminated by Osimo, but beats Otorie, Kananabe, and Jogabu with Steve. And Steve isn't a character that is super common in Japan outside of Akala, at least like he is everywhere else. So this is actually a fairly rare result, and I was super impressed by Parent Box. I'm hoping to see more of him in the future. Beating Kananabe and Jogabu Game 5 is extremely impressive. He only lost to Osmo here. He's definitely someone that needs to be on your radar because his gameplay at this tournament was looking crisp. I mean, the wins explain themselves. Next up, I want to talk about a player that I haven't really highlighted on the channel, and that is going to be Snow. And just for reference, they started playing this game competitively less than a year ago. At least their first tournament is less than a year ago, or just a year now. It was Meisuma Top 8 where they got a 97th. You jump all the way to today, the improvement has been so quick. Already in contention for the best Mario in Japan. I would still give it to Now for now just because he has better performances at the major level, but Snow has been farming Sumabatos. Like, he has a 5th place at Sumabato SP36, he has a 17th place at Sumabato SP37, a 2nd place at Sumabato SP38, and a 5th place at this one. It's only so long before he wins one, and he also has a ridiculous run on top of all of that at this tournament, beating Kepler, Level 1, TK3, Senra, and Riziasu just to be able to get into the top 8. Once they were in the top 8, they got a nice win on Suna before falling to Osimo. So Snow is a player, I haven't really highlighted them. They are incredible. One of the top talents right now that is getting insanely better, insanely fast. Like, there's a lot of people that are improving really quick right now, but going from a year getting 97 to today, that is just such a rapid improvement from Snow, and I honestly think it's going to continue. And the final player that I want to take a look at for this tournament is going to be Suna, who was able to beat level 1 in the Toon Link Ditto, Onko, who was able to beat Snow, so already a pretty crazy part of the bracket. They fell to Jogabu, but they were able to qualify for top 8, getting a win on Lunamato. And I just want to talk about Toon Link in general in Japan, because this character is so prevalent there. You have Sigma, you have level 1, you now have Suna. Not now Suna, he's always been a good rep, but I would say this is probably his best performance to date. He beats level 1 in the Ditto. Level 1's been doing the best he's ever done recently, so it's just very interesting how this character has become so highly contested in Japan. In the rest of the world, there are other Toon Link players. Ong's very good. I'd say Jotaro Hobo is probably the best Toon Link player outside of Japan. Skaz is another amazing one as well from Europe. So it's actually a pretty common character, like more common than a character that's way better than like Pikachu. Even Joker, I would say there's more Toon Link players than, which I don't fully get because I don't have a ton of faith in this character, to be honest, but maybe I have to change my opinion about that because these runs from Suna, from level 1, from Sigma, they are all amazing. Who is the best Toon Link in the world? I would probably still give it to Sigma just because his best performances are the ones at majors, and those are going to be the ones that matter the most. But level 1, he's definitely had some contentious runs. Now this run from Suna is going to be putting him up there for contention. Jojo Hobo and Skaz have been doing well from around the world. So there's so many Toon Link players that really are in contention for the number 1 spot, which is always so fun to me because, again, I feel like this character is not very good, but regardless, people are getting results. The tier list doesn't really matter. And our final event of the weekend is going to be Wavedash. In 7th place, you have T3 Dom and Wrath. 5th place, you have MK Big Boss and Luis. 4th place, you have Chase. 3rd place, Andrix. 2nd place, Sonics. And winning the entire thing was MK Leo. Now, Leo first, Sonic second. That's pretty typical. What wasn't typical, though, was Leo's character combination, as he used Byleth and Joker to be able to get to Winners Finals. Once in Winners Finals, he used Meta Knight, which didn't have a ton of success, and Corrin. They were introduced to the lineup, and the Corrin was able to beat Sonics the first time, lost to him in the Grand Finals 3-0, but then won the reset 3-1. So Leo won this event with Corrin. His hardest opponent, he got there with Corrin, which I think is pretty cool. He didn't use Aegis at all here, especially versus Sonics, which is like one of the 3 people in the world that he would definitely usually use Aegis against. So I don't know if maybe this tournament he just wasn't feeling the Aegis, or maybe he's just dropping Aegis in general, but the fact that he's able to get over one of his toughest opponents without Aegis using Corrin, I think it's a really good sign for Leo. He played really well this tournament, super happy with his performance. Sonics as well, he was able to get a win on Leo, even if it is on the Corrin, still incredibly impressive. So both those guys, they're the top 2 seeds. They got 1 and 2, but the fashion that they did it in was pretty interesting. Our 3rd place finisher was Andrix, who went crazy this tournament. He was able to get wins on Capitancito and Chase to be able to get into the top 8. Once in top 8, he did lose to Sonics, but then beat MK Big Boss in the best Game 5 last stock, last hit I think I've ever seen in this game. Like, go watch that right now. It is incredible. He was also able to beat Chase again in the run back, and then finally lost to Sonic. So Andrik's a player that has been farming regionals. He does really well at the regional level. We haven't seen him perform at a major yet, but also he hasn't really been to any super big major events. So every single time Andrik's been going to stuff recently, he's been looking really good. I'm super excited to see him at a major because I think if he performs well at that major, he could steal that title of Best Falcon. Now, it's going to be really tough because you do have Jogabu and Karage fighting out for that in Japan. But, Jogabu has a top 8 this weekend. Karage has a top 8 this weekend. Andrik has a top 8 this weekend. All these guys have been on their A game as of late. The race for the best Falcon in the world has never been closer. And I got to say, Andrik is a super sick frontrunner for it to be because he is insanely good at this game. I also want to talk about AC's run to 9th place as they were able to get a massive upset over Lima and a big win over Ignace before falling to Luis and MK Big Boss with a combination of Meta Knight and Snake. I mean, I'll say it a million times. Snake players, they're pretty good at this game, but I also want to talk about Lima's lose run because he has a really nice bounce back. He does lose to AC fairly early on, but then gets wins on Illusion, then and Larry Lur before falling to Capitan Zito for a nice 13th place. So even though he falls pretty early on, he does still make a run. I feel like that's one of the best things about Lima. He very rarely goes out of an event without getting at least a couple good wins along the way. Even if he's placing a little bit lower, he's still getting like a top 50 or 2 top 50 wins, and he's just such a scary player. You can never really count him out. He has made the losers run before. Still the second best Bayonetta player in the world, I would say. Bloom Forever is on that number 1 spot, but Lima, I think his style of Bayonetta is probably the best because he just camps you so insanely hard, and if you don't have any way to deal with it, and a lot of people don't, he's just going to beat you because he has that iron will to just camp you over and over and over again. I know it sounds kind of corny, Sonic's iron will just camp you out, but it is really hard to do that, especially in the losers bracket when you have to go through opponent after opponent after opponent. So huge shouts to Lima for that loser run, as well as AC for getting a massive upset over him. I also want to talk about the 2 Palutena players that were able to get top 8 at this tournament, in Luis and Chase. Now, you have Luis, who's able to get top 8 in the winner side of the bracket by beating Wrath and AC, and you have Chase, who's able to get top 8 in the loser side of the bracket by beating Larry Lur and Nico, and then once in the top 8, Chase is able to get a nice win on Wrath and Luis before falling to Andrik. Luis, he does unfortunately bust her out once he gets into top 8, falling to Leo and Chase, but to be fair, those are 2 pretty tough opponents because one is Leo, the second one is Chase, who had just beaten you in the Ditto at Crown like a week ago, and then Luis also tried out his Fox, but it unfortunately did not work for him. So Chase, with this run, I would probably say he is the best Palutena player in the world. I know Jagaimo's been having some really good results as well, but Chase, he top 8's major upset, he top 8's Crown, he top 4's this event. He has just been not having bad tournaments. So I would give him that title of best Palu right now, though still highly contested. Jagaimo is still an amazing player, but Chase has been putting in work as of late, and I gotta recognize it. And I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. We did not talk about every single player that made a run in this video because we just couldn't. There was too many people. But if there's someone that I left out and you want me to talk about them, please let me know down below. I'll be sure to tell you how they did. And that's all I got to say. I thank you guys for watching. The sport's been absolutely unreal lately. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.